Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, I'm Nerdcast Dave, and as usual, I am joined by this nerd.
Nerdarchist Ted, how are you doing this fine and lovely evening there, sir?
I walked around the graveyard in the rain today. Does that count?
That's got some levels of morbidity. I always, take moments like that. I'm like, all right, what kind of feelings is this drumming up? What can I do to use this for D&D? So,
Zombies! But that's Nana. Yuck. I do not want zombie Nana. I love Nana very much, but no zombie Nana.
it was some time ago, but again, my condolences for your loss.
Yeah. Well, Nana
Ever,
has been gone like 5 years, and that's not just like that's just not a zombie Nana. That's a Viking zombie Nana. But yeah. But today's my grandfather's birthday, and my daughter wanted to visit his gravesite. It's been October will be a year, so he made it to 97, and then hung out for a little while to make sure it stuck, and then checked out. Right, so yeah, so we went to go out and see, and but we learned something, right? At least the place where we went, they don't put out the marker for like a year, so thankfully he's buried right next to Nana, so we're able to find him. Otherwise, we would not. But yeah, it was good. It was a nice visit. We went there, cleaned off Nana's marker a little bit, put down some flowers, left a toy train, and that was that.
well, there you go. Yeah,
So
it's always, sad, drumming up the past and saying goodbye to those that we loved. You know, but it all comes to, culminations, and that's kind of what we're talking about tonight is,
yeah, campaign
campaign
finale.
finales.
Finales, yeah, yeah, and so your sister and niece, they got kind of choked up, but fortunately, I had all emotions removed at a very early age, surgically.
Yeah,
um,
I mean, it's tough. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I know my sister, and I know, your daughter, so
yeah.
definitely I can picture the whole scene.
So it's cool, and also like leaving there, it was kind of maze-like. It's like kind of sprawling, and everything looks the same. So there was some concern about possibly running into a minotaur, but we did
Well,
avoid all minotaurs were avoided, and we made it out safely.
many years ago, I had a job where I would cut the grass of my church's cemetery. So I spent many hours, cutting grass and being in a cemetery. So I don't have quite the same haunted feelings that others do,
Yeah,
But cleaning gravestones and taking care of the grounds, definitely understand that feeling.
yeah. Well, like, and I know the great, the cemetery where you kind of worked, which
Mm-hmm.
was very small. Like you could like just look and see everything from any particular spot.
Sure.
This one is a bit more sprawling. Has kind of like a huge fountain in there, almost like a small like a pond, I guess, or large pond, small lake, whatever you want to call it. Uh,
And
so
I've and I've also been to Arlington, who that's pretty much as big as it gets.
yeah, yeah, that's yeah.
That was
Well,
that was more recent.
one of the other things too is like I feel like we had a trick played on us a little bit
Okay.
because they had all the flags for the veterans, and I was like, oh, my grandfather's a veteran. This will make this easier to find. And it's and but since they didn't put the marker down, he didn't get a flag because who would know, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah, so I'm like looking to go to all these ones with the flags, and I was like, no, that's not it. Kept failing my perception check.
And that's actually another thing that I've done. With my son being in Scouts, was pretty much was every Memorial Day or the day before Memorial Day we would be out with a stack of flags planting on every
Yeah,
veterans graves.
this is cool.
Uh, with finales, we'll jump right into the question, and this one we're going to have for you because I've not actually watched all of the Scarlet Sisterhood. But what had a better finale, the Scarlet Sisterhood or the Curse of Narcissus?
You wound my heart, Ted. You wound my heart.
I'm sorry. Only there's only so many hours of watching D&D, and I've watched quite a lot of Scarlet Sisterhood. I have not watched all
There's only so many hours, and there is Critical Role out there. So,
of it. So you DM'd the Scarlet Sisterhood, and you were a player in Curse of Narcotis. Um, so which one do you feel had the finale that you were looking for? I'm gonna assume I've got the answer.
they're different, right? Like that's hard because it's not like I was a player in both games. Like in one, the culmination was seeing this whole story that I had been um, helping these players tell over the course of a little over a year come to a culmination, right? Which is it was kind of condensed as well because one game was over the course of span of years in real time,
Mhm.
and the other one was like maybe a year and a half tops. We did 60 some episodes, and we did that game pretty much every week.
Right.
So that makes it a little bit different. But finishing one up as a DM was very satisfying for me to help the players get to the ending that they're trying to get to. You know, whereas with Curse of Narcotis, it was getting to finish a game for the first time where we're like done, and we had done levels 1 through 20, and even with Chris with the Red Sisterhood, we didn't go from levels 1 through 20. It wasn't like the roster on that game changed out a lot. Only our friend Megan, they were the only ones that were in that game the whole time.
Right.
So I mean, it was just good. They're just two different things, and I don't think there's a better or worse.
It's
Um,
hard to compare apples and oranges.
yeah, like, and I'm especially because one game you're like I said, one game you're running it as the DM, and the other game you're enjoying as a player, or you're involved as a player. I shouldn't say enjoying because I enjoyed them both. Um, so they were both kind of special for their own reasons, and both of them kind of representing games that I saw wrapped up to that scale for the first time ever playing. Like I've had some season finales which would turn to the games wrapping up finales with Saber Dice, but they were different because it's like we were going to do set amount of sessions and then it was going to end, and you got a finale that way. Not where like with both of those games, it's like, well, we're going to end this when we hit level 20.
Mhm.
So
I would have to say there's definitely, difference, between I'm going to run a story arc, and this may or may not be the end for this particular character, and the story wraps up, but it's very different between that and wrapping up a campaign. A campaign to me is a sprawling endeavor. Um, you know, I've had a number of games that I played in college where an entire story was told. We played regularly. We had a lot of fun with it, and I felt like when you got to the end, it was the end of the story. And the very first time that I wound up being the DM telling these kind of things, and we got to the end, the players were so thirsty for more. It didn't matter that the story was wrapped up because it just fell upon them. They weren't realizing that at this moment the game is over. And they were, it was a bittersweet, element or bittersweet moment because they wanted the game to continue. Everybody was having that much fun. Um, but that was the first time that I GM that I ran the story, so I didn't really have a huge amount of experience with it. So I kind of took that as when we did the Curse of Narcotis, like this was a culmination. The characters got to level 20. You had this. You're gearing up for this fight, and there was like a 3 session. You're planning everything you possibly can. Contracting with demons and whatever have you to be like, all right, we got to get into this spot. We got to kill this guy. And a little bit of spoiler. It's been over for a while, but there was definitely a moment where I'm like, all right, there is absolutely a decision or a moment of the game where it may or may not, you know, have an impact. And that was, with the Demon Lord's amulet or whatever they were called, um, to, if that wasn't destroyed, then Darkitas wouldn't really be gone. So when, I think it was actually your character who got a high enough Arcana check to know about that. So I kind of thought that was like, all right, that's the last piece of the puzzle. You got to find it. So
Yeah. Yeah, that was really cool. Also, I will throw this out here there as a disclaimer. You do not have to take a campaign to level 20 in order to have a successful campaign and an ending. You can end at any point. Ultimately you just want to finish when you're done, when you've told the story you and your players have wanted to tell, right? And that's the perfect place for a campaign finale.
I would agree. But the point that I was getting at was like playing 6 sessions, while that could be called a campaign or could be called a story, to me, that's a short story arc, not a campaign.
Yeah. Yeah, and I totally agree with that because I did do that in Court of Worms on Saver Dice. For whatever reason, the campaign we're playing wrapped up early, and we needed a transition between, um, the new season and the old season. So so we ran like a mini series where it was only 6 sessions, um, and then like a lot of those were 12 sessions, um, and then like the game was over. I mean, we've done that with your game as well,
Mm-hmm.
where we've run, where you finished up after 12, and that was a totally different story, and with those characters went to 10th level, I believe is where they ended, and like that arc was done, and there was some closure, and then also when we did D&D in a castle, you know we I don't know how you ended your campaign, but I know like we each, me, you, and Doug were each running our own campaigns, and the culmination of those, the final session, we brought everyone together for like a mega battle,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then after that mega battle, I believe we all split off and took our groups back with us to kind of like do the epilogue of, hey, this is the wrap up. Here's how things end. um and I kind of did, that's where I did the campaign finale for them, only especially because of like the whole experience of wrapping that in there. I felt like that it was necessary to do that, and we kind of did like, well, this is what happens. You guys all got sucked in this place. Now you're able to go back to where it was you came from or where you want to go. What's going to happen with your characters? And I gave the players a lot of agency there.
And that's something that is a fantastic opportunity. If you are not planning to do any kind of continuation, and you are looking to that word finale, it absolutely should be, give the players agency, allow them to impact the world, you know, in a much greater way than they ever would as just a standard player. So that, okay, at this point in time, hey, I want to open up this shop, or, oh, I go back to that person that I fell in love with and I start a family. Oh, I enact my revenge upon, that person. Okay, great. These are all moments you put them down and they become elements of your world that you get to, put, back out there with, subsequent games. With my Curse of Narkitas game, I did that. I gave everybody, agency with where they wanted to take their characters. With the D&D in a castle, I only had 5 players at my table. There was one person who just never showed up at the castle. It was weird. Uh, but it was one of those things where like we all went back to our rooms and everybody got to, figure out where their story was going to go next, what they wanted to do. In my Curse of Narkitas game, there was an NPC that was kind of whisked away to who knows where. And that character wound up becoming the father of the character who whisked them away, his next character in my next game. It was like, oh, this, I'm the son of Obstin Strandon. And I'm like, whoa, Did not
Yeah.
see that coming. Um, so moments like that, I mean, I think that's just spectacular to have things tying together. Um,
Yeah, and that's actually a really good and valid point to bring up. If you're playing in a campaign world and you're using the same campaign world, having those players, those characters having played in it previously and gotten to a point where things wrapped up and they did get that ending is kind of a cool thing to then reintroduce elements back into your game that they may have heard of the exploits. I think that's a cool thing as the DM to be able to do, because then your players are going to get all excited and stoked and kind of geek out over the fact that they were like, oh, he's talking about my other character.
I know you don't watch Critical Role, but uh, there was lore that was dropped once they all came back from their um, I guess their break during COVID that no one saw coming until it was like right on top of them, and it was a major plot point that was just kind of glossed over from campaign one. And you could see the visceral reaction from the players. We're like, wait, what? And it just was amusing that Sam was like, "Yeah, I saw that coming before anybody else." And because it's a rather recent thing, I'm not gonna give anything away, but it was pretty awesome, to see the players react. And you can have those same kind of moments at your own table by having NPCs that players have fallen in love with, um, going throughout, you know, multiple campaigns. And it's done well, or when it's done well, it has a pretty big impact. My son and I were watching, the Legend of Korra this past week, and throughout all of the last Airbender, you had this running gag of "not my cabbages," and there was a single tagline of "not my cabbage corporation," in the new one. So it was pretty funny that they found a way to just a small little NPC that was reoccurring, even brought into the new series. So it's definitely fun to see how those kind of things all unfold.
Well, Doug brings up. I'm excited our campaign for our campaign finale on the channel tomorrow, and that's kind of what brought about this topic, because we are about to end a campaign and start a new campaign. Um, so we're at that spot, wondering what's going to happen. Being excited about having played these characters for a while, and with this group, but it also at the same time being like, oh, a little sad that we know tomorrow, one way or another, it's going to be ending for now. Maybe
That's it.
we'll revisit these characters, and maybe we won't. Like that's always tough, right? Because me and you having played in so many campaigns where once you pull the plug, it's done, right? There's no coming back.
I,
Even though we say you can, it just in our experience it hasn't happened many times.
it doesn't happen very often, but I have to say, we've got a great group of people with this game, and we plan on having this ongoing cycle where the DM position rotates, and that's going to be great. I don't know if when it comes time for Megan to run again, if they're going to have, oh, well, do you want to go to those bastards? Or what about this idea? And
Yeah,
that's typically, what we've encountered as Nerd. But I think that there is going to be a great love for these individual characters amongst all of us, that it's I want to say, high probability that we will revisit these characters sometime in another cycle. So I am happy and saddened that tomorrow is the break, or the finale, however we want to call it. um, the for now, if you will. But the possibility of them going away is like, but
yeah. And also too, it depends when we cycle back around to Megan. do they present us with another game that is super shiny and hard to
Right.
resist? Or is Megan like, hey, do you want to do another round of those bastards? All right. It depends on that too, whether there's like another option. Because I find as gamers, a lot of times we're like Doug from Up, and you're like, squirrel. And you're off and running to the next thing. But if nothing else, tomorrow it's going to finish up. There's going to be a finale. I trust Megan is an excellent DM, so we're going to get some kind of satisfying ending to not feel like we're missing out by not playing those characters anymore. And also, those characters too are also low enough level to
Hmm.
revisit and be fun to run for as a DM, and they're not like at that stage where they're daunting. We
Correct.
still, we're still only we're like 6 levels,
Next.
so it's around like 11 or 13 that characters really get start getting tough to run for when you start getting access to those 6th and the 7th level spells.
It
Then what
gets
the
tough.
players can do is a big difference. So Cameron wants to know what would be the worst way to end the campaign. I was thinking of doing an impression of Porky Pig saying, "That's all, folks." Well, while having grown up with Looney Tunes, I could definitely appreciate that. I'm,
That's all, folks.
and I'm not sure if that's the way to go. Um,
I think based on my experience, not giving the players like the not the characters. The characters don't have any emotional attachment to the end of a story, but not giving the players the knowledge that you are coming to a culmination. So if you just drop it on them of like, okay, this is happening, we're ending the game tonight, one way or the other. I know that with season one of Critical Role, they got to 115 episodes, and without getting too much into it, things were not going well, partway through that. So it was very possibly going to be like, okay, well, something needs to change, and the story is going to continue. So it's possible for you to say, okay, well, give them the lead up, let them know that you are coming to the end of the story, so that they're prepared for it, so that you don't have that, well, crap, now everybody's pissed off at the DM. Yes, you completed the story, yes, you told everything you wanted to tell, but there was that, that thirsting for more. So that was my experience.
yeah, I will say like Curse of Narcitus. If anything, there is one downside
Okay.
to the finale. It had nothing to do with you,
Okay.
and that's our cleric never used
Oh,
their divine intervention. They were 20th level. They had the auto divine intervention, and I know why they didn't do it. Um, but I feel like it would have been cooler if they did.
I came to the table prepared with three different options based on what I thought he would say. Uh, I had a attack spell ready, I had a healing spell ready, and I totally had an ancient tree that I was just going to drop right down on the table. Of like, all right, you just call for generic aid. Boom, this thing shows up. Um, and I have to admit, there was a little bit of sadness in me as the DM of, okay, well, I spent time statting up this ancient tree and, coming up with, essentially these two epic level, deity spells for how it's going to interact. And, essentially the enemies that you were arrayed against, the initiative 20 count towers that were there, and Narcitus himself, which, well, here's my big Narcitus worm. um, and like, I had all of that under the guise of, well, this is the amount of power that they're bringing against. And Nate's got that card in his back pocket, so things were a little bit tougher on you guys than it could have been or needed to be, but oh well.
Yeah, I felt like he was holding it for like a ditch effort for the Hail Mary. Like he was afraid that we weren't going to like be able to finish it or something, and he just wanted to have that one thing left in order to try and bring home the day, and it just never came to it. So we
I
just
mean,
ended with it there, laying on the table, and never played. So sad.
everybody's got complete power over their character and their character's decisions, and that was the decision that he made. So
Yeah, what are you gonna do? But
yeah,
it's one of those things. Like there's certain things that your character can do that's epic and may never happen, and that's just one of them. You know.
but
So, oh, what were the things you were going to do? I don't know if you ever told us.
I just did.
Oh yeah, that's true. Well, you said that you had a Trent and a attack spell and a healing.
Yes, I mean it was going to be like a major amount of radiant damage, a healing aura that was only going to affect those arrayed against Narcitus, and I had statted up an ancient treant. I have he's over there on the shelf, but I've got a huge sized treant mini, um, you know that was much bigger than your typical. Oh, I mean it's not quite as massive as this guy, but he came out much later than that. But
Yeah.
I've got I had this mini set ready to go of like, okay, if he just calls for just help me, all right, this guy is going to be able to take damage. He's going to be able to do some healing. He's going to be able to do some damage himself. So like it's a variety of different things that could have been done, but I felt like that covered all of the angles that were most likely.
Can you hold up that Trent you just held up next to Narcitus?
Oh, sure, yeah. Like I said, this was not the Trent
Yeah.
that I had, but this is a Bones. These are both Bones models. Um,
Yeah. That Trent is too impressive to be on the same table with Narcitus.
um, but the Narcitus was painted by former intern Jake. The Trent was painted by yours truly, and I think he came out pretty well. I'm happy with him.
Ah, it looks good, especially like on the screen. Those greens really pop.
Yeah, but I mean, it's definitely it's not quite as awesome as the one that Jake from Mini Train Domain recently shared on social media that he did. Um, but I'm continuing my painting and my crafting, and I will get better.
Well, perhaps if you keep going to the foot of the master and learning someday. Nah, your stuff is really good, man. You're a good mini painter. Uh, so, what do you think are like key elements, things that you beats you kind of want to hit in a campaign finale? Uh,
So you want things to be impactful, memorable. So you want what's there to just be like, all right, this is something that when it's all said and done, you want your players excited to share with their other gamer friends that are not in that group. Like, oh man, can you believe that during this game this happened? So whether it's a setup moment where you give the players something awesome that they've got the ability to do, whether it's a hard fight, like a hard win, okay, well, if you manage to deal out all of this damage and they get through and like, all right, we got through, everybody survived, um, and then there should be something that changes the world so that you've got a lasting impression that the players did something good, prevented something bad from happening, or change the world through their actions in a way that's going to alter that campaign world for whatever the next game is.
yeah, I feel like including elements that make your players feel like something's changed about the game, right? There's a certain amount of newness to what's going on, knowing that like whatever happens at the end of this session or series of sessions, as the case may be, there's going to be finality, for better or worse.
All right, hold on a second. Delacath in my first D&D game. So this is like, I'm assuming by game, I mean, he means like story arc, not a single session.
Campaign, yeah.
But we've come close to a TPK 3 times. One of them by a boat capsizing. All right, totally understandable. Once by a horde of undead. I've been there, man. I get it. Once by a pixie. Like, what?
Fucking pixies.
He had the whole shifty eye thing in there. Uh,
Yeah.
they did beautifully, beautifully written. Totally, what the f? Wow. So I mean, I've been down those roads before, dealing with potential TPKs. Um, you know, I've been in some TPKs for sure. Yeah, so definitely challenging things, but um, I didn't mean to derail you, but that absolutely required comment once by a pixie. I
Hey,
want to know more about that encounter.
well, I don't know. I harassed my players in the Scarlet Sisterhood with quicklings for quite some time, and they're fun. Hasted quicklings is the way to go for sure.
God, hasty. You and hasted quickly. It's like
I
you.
I know it was just a ridiculous combination.
It's like, okay, you took some damage. You don't know from what. You don't see anything.
Yeah.
You don't hear anything.
There's a breeze. You're bleeding.
You've done that one many times.
Yeah.
I think it's you and hasted quicklings are almost bad as um, Jake from Any Train Domain and Mimics.
Mm.
We've encountered quite a lot of them on Dawnbringers, including last week.
Can never have too many mimics.
Uh, so Doug makes a comment about treat every session like it's your last. I have a hard time subscribing to that theory. I know every gaming group is different, but I've never had the real problem with getting a group and keeping the game going. Uh, so maybe I'm just fortunate, lucky. I don't know, but
Yeah. So
hey,
so there was a question that get retracted, right? And I was going to kind of address it. Only because like one TPKs can happen, but I don't think you should ever plan them, right? They're actually hard when you plan them. I feel like if you're depending on what you're trying to do, just because players will just surprise you with the kind of stuff that they do anyway. And like I know like you tried to start a campaign that way and you're like, this is gonna be epic, this is gonna be so cool. And then you start it and it's just like it's so unsatisfying on both ends.
well, all right. So a couple. I mean, let me get into that. Number one, like it wasn't like from session, combat one. Like I let it play on for like 4 or 5 sessions, but the desire of wanting to get there, I ruined the surprise because I rushed it. I didn't allow things to evolve naturally over the course of the combat. So, like, the fact that I was dealing out damage that you guys weren't able to deal with, the intelligent players, Dave included, saw what was happening and was like, okay, Dave's got, or Ted's got, Ghost Walk over there on the shelf. It's a new book. All right, let's just see what he's got going on. So, like, the shock and awe of what I wanted to do didn't happen. Uh, but I would agree that you really shouldn't plan a TPK. Um, but you should, if you are caring about the story and you want that game to go on, every encounter there should be a small portion of your brain of what happens if the party loses here. Are they going to run? Or are they not going to run? Is the creature that's fighting them going to take them captive, or are they going to just slit their throats, rob their bodies, and walk away? Can the story continue if any of these things happen? So if you want that story to continue, you want those characters to keep playing, is there a way for that story to continue? Almost always, yes. It's just up to you as the DM and uh, you know, to be creative enough to find a way to keep that story going.
Yeah. So the second part of it is, should there be some sort of epilogue? Also, too, like if there's some way that, like that a TPK will happen and they still kind of complete the mission, and it's this epic sacrifice, that's kind of cool too, depending on what your players are into. They may not care that much. They may care more about their characters living. And should there be an epilogue? There should be, and the epilogue should be a shared experience between the GM and the players. It really shouldn't be the GM monologuing about all these great things that happen, at the end of the campaign. I really feel like you should bring the players in on this and get their input and their feedback and give them a chance to tell us about their characters and what they're going to do and what's next.
So I would agree with that. And after you do all of that and the story continues, you have got elements of, again, if the mission was successful, these heroes, and they can become part of the lore. And it'll be fun to talk about how, oh, these epic legends, did this, and they died for the mission. And it's fun to put things in there that are wrong, things blown out of proportion, things, dialed up to 11, as they say. You can have a lot of fun with those things, and see how you can kind of nudge the elbow of that particular player who did that, and these things that have happened in the previous game and how they're going to impact. You could take small moments that didn't seem like much. Oh, I helped out a commoner by feeding them. Well, you thought you gave them a silver, but you actually wound up giving them a platinum piece, and they use that to start a business. And their generations have grown and flourished because of that generosity. So like you've got moments you can build up from attributions from that story, if you so desire.
So I want to revisit the TPK thing because Cameron did put something in there, and it is a cool idea, just like your idea was a cool idea. But so what happens as players and GMs? We come up with these ideas that sound really cool in our head, and we're like, oh man, it'll be so amazing to just spring it on my players, on the group, right? But some surprises aren't really good surprises, even though that's our intent, and that's where they fall apart. A better way, if you're going to wrap in a TPK into it, in my opinion anyway, is to tell them, hey, we're going to move on to this next stage of the game. You're going to still get to use these characters, but I need them to die. You don't have to tell them why or what for, but what you can do is ask them for your trust. And then say, hey, there's going to be a final scene. What are some things that are going to go going through your character's mind as they die and leave this mortal coil? Or you could even be like, hey, this is like loosely what's going on. How do you want to describe your death scene? How does it end for you? And I've done that in a game and started with that, but I told the players this is what we're doing and this is the premise for the game. I feel like I think that's a better way to do it, only because not because I'm really smart or anything and I came up with a great idea, but because I feel like it involves the players and it gets their consent on what's going on, and then ultimately it gets their buy-in. Anytime you plan a TPK, you are in danger of losing trust with your group, because they're like, well, whatever I do, it doesn't matter. My decisions don't mean anything. Why should I even make choices? But if you can flip the script a little bit and step back and go, how can I share this experience with the players and bring them into it? I think instead what you'll get is, instead of losing trust, you'll get buy-in. And especially if they see where it's going, and then you're all on the same page, and it's like, oh, you really did have a cool idea, and now they get to experience it instead of just like kind of having it done to them.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you there. Going back to that, Ghost Walk idea, that would have been a great way, rather than take 4 or 5 sessions of, hey, can we go on trivial adventures until, you encounter this adversary that, becomes the final boss, later. It just wasn't as, fun and thematic. You could have it start right then and there. Forget about rolling dice. If the outcome of the die roll is not necessary, don't bother rolling it. Don't ask for it. Don't push it. Allow it to go into narration. So you can get the player buy-in and say, all right, I want to run a game where you're going to hell, or your characters are, going into the spirit world, or, some other grand story. But in order for this to happen, you're going to die. And that's going to be where the story starts. Start it there. Don't have this bizarre buildup. Don't try to surprise the people with, hey, your characters are going to die, but you don't know about it. It doesn't go over well, at least, based
It's
on
one of those ideas that sounds better in your head. But and also too, like depending on the group and who you're playing with, you don't even have to give them all the details. Like you don't even have to tell them where the campaign's going if you ask them first and be like, "Hey, I kind of want it to be." You can tell them I want it to be a surprise,
right.
and but I need you all to die. Are you okay with that? We're gonna play the game, but it's just gonna be a little bit of a different start.
And an element that you touched on, or mentioned, and that is the trust angle. When you're talking about playing a game, ending a game, most of the time we're gaming with our friends. We're gaming with people that we are willingly choosing to spend time with. We want our storyteller, our GM or DM, whatever you're calling it, to be able to entertain and share this world, this story with. And if you have gotten to a point where the person who is running the story for you doesn't have your trust, if you don't feel that your needs as a player, or the goals of the character aren't being taken into account, or that you properly have an idea of what the type of game that you're going to run is, that is going to put a divide, and it's going to challenge a lot of things. And we've talked before about player trust and GM trust. You really need to make sure that it's there, because that is the building blocks. We're going to tell this story together. We're going to have fun together, and I want my GM to trust me that I'm not cheating on dice rolls. That I'm playing to the best of my ability, even when I am not used to playing spellcasters with concentration and keep screwing up and casting multiple spells at the same time. But I'm not willfully ignoring the rules. It's doing the best I can. Uh, you know, and then from the same side, you want the player to trust that the GM isn't out for blood, isn't out for vengeance, that we are collectively telling a story, that we're all seeking this fun time together through shared entertainment, and that we're going to tell the story. Yeah, the dice might go bad and my character might die. That's part and parcel of the game. But the game's going to continue, and I might be able to bring that character back to life, or I might be able to roll up somebody new and rejoin the story. Yeah, great, it's awesome. But without that trust, without that foundation, the building blocks of this game, it's not going to go over well, and you're not going to get to a finale. You're not going to get to end the game, because at some point in time, the GM is going to say, forget this, I'm out the door, or you're going to say, yeah, I'm just not going to come back. I'm not feeling the connection with this story or with this character.
All good and valid points. Um, so, do you have any expectations or anticipations for tomorrow night?
No, I just, a couple hours ago read a message in Discord that greatly altered the, my perception of what was actually transpiring.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm now terrified of what is on the other side, because I am on death's door. I am gone through much of my power. I am nearly out of sorcerer points. More than half of my spell slots are gone, and I am at a single hit point. So,
Wow. Well, you know what? You'll probably get up from at least one more hit, right? You do have that shadow magic ability.
I do have the shadow magic ability, which has not come into call yet, and I have not used my golden burst. So the first thing I'm probably going to do is heal myself for a d6.
Mm.
But that's not going to be a lot.
No, it almost feels redundant, like super unnecessary. Like anything that can kill you at one hit point can kill you at 7.
Hey, there's no guarantee I'm getting to 7 either. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, but going back to what we're just talking about. I trust that our GM is fantastic, and we are coming into a session that is probably going to be very heavy on the role playing, very heavy on exploring our character connection, because we talked about um, what initially our goal was. So there is technically that possibility there. So we'll see what transpires, but I can't, based off of how we got to the point where we ended and where I'm thinking things could go, I'm not seeing the connection. But that doesn't necessarily mean that our GM, who's been plotting and planning all of this, doesn't see a connection. So I'm gonna just see what transpires and react accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, based off of everything that's going on in the campaign, there could be like there's a couple different directions we could go in for the final one. Those bastards is formed on the idea that we're looking for our dad,
Mm-hmm.
and does does that happen in the is that going to happen? Is that what's coming next? We've also there's been this talk of this demon lord for a while.
So that you've got 6 of one, a half dozen of the other.
Yeah.
Technically it could go either way, but if this is a doorway to dad, then why the flip was the dragon being involved?
Well, and also here's the other thing too. Like, even if it's like a doorway to dad, it doesn't necessarily prove anything either. We don't really know that he was particularly great. Like, he abandoned us all, and in addition to that, like, the whole premise of those bastards is our dad kind of got it on with a lot of different people and species. So, I mean, so what is dad? Like, clearly dad's not just like a vanilla human or elf.
I
There's
mean,
something more to it.
yeah, given all of what we know, and there's been definitely some uh, thoughts unveiled, whether it's accurate or not. Are we 7 special, and there are more out there who aren't, or are we it?
Yeah.
So there's definitely a difference in perception. So I'm like, as Ted, I don't know if Galeason would feel this way, but like, I think as Ted, he fully believes that, okay, or I fully believe that, all right, given the story, fine, there's 7 of us that have been born that have the mark, but there's probably more out there that don't, for whatever reason, and
Yeah.
that's fine, but it fits more with the story of what we imagine dad to be.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I,
just because we imagine them to be one way doesn't mean he's not another.
that's true. um, but we know, um, the queen from Luster, definitely shared some insights, and apparently Sin looks a lot like dad, so definitely we know
He's
about
he's a
what it looks
shadow
like.
creature. He's a he's some kind of shadow creature. That's the part that like we're thinking, oh, you look like a half elf. He looks kind of like him. No, that wasn't the part she was talking about at all. He's a shadow demon.
Well, I mean, it could be all kinds of things, but you know, we don't know. We won't know. I think I agree with Doug's statement of I'm equally excited to follow up this campaign finale with an awesome new game, but he's 100% confident tomorrow night's game will provide a wonderful bookend for it. So I'm confident that yes, this will be a cool culmination of the story, um, and I've got a better than 50% odds that when it's Megan's turn in the chair again, that they will be running those bastards.
I kind of hope something happens that causes Unga to lose a hand.
You want to lose a hand, huh?
I do, based on things that have happened in the campaign earlier.
the mirrors.
Yeah, based on the mirrors. Yeah.
Well, I mean that is a great thing. I know this is not dealing with finales, but the that is great for the character goal versus player goal.
Yeah.
You know, obviously Unga and Sin saw the mirrors very differently. Apparently Unga definitely has a negative viewpoint on certain things, um, whereas Sin definitely looks at things a little bit more positively. There's a
Darker insights were revealed during those sessions.
like the one mirror that was like, oh, what is the expected outcome, or what do you think is going to happen? And like that was a mirror that there's sorry for a little bit of spoilers, peoples, but like you broke the mirror and Sin like snuck back to get a piece of it because something in that mirror was that compelling to him.
Yeah. Well, that's also fun and cool too. Is like we can have these different experiences
Mm-hmm.
from the same thing in the game. Michael says, "Is the demon lord your dad?"
No, the demon lord is like the enemy that Dad stole the sword from, I believe.
Unless the demon lord actually hid away the sword and crafted a story, and indeed was the demon lord all along.
So
Anything can
we're
happen. It's D&D.
indeed. So we're getting down to our last 10 minutes. Next week will be the first Monday of the month. It'll be back to Dave and myself. Sorry, it'll be back to Doug and myself.
Ted, you mean tomorrow? Tomorrow will be the first Monday.
The
You
first
said.
Monday.
I was like, wait a minute. The first day is tomorrow.
Yes, the first Monday of the month, which is when we announce the winner of our giveaway. It'll be the announcement of the next fan game and the players for that. So just as a little bit of a teaser, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I've got a box here. I've got an unpainted Nightmare Dragon. We have got a full set of the Icons of the Realms of Baldur's Gate. We've got Joe Manganiello's Archon the Cruel, painted mini and all of his cadre.
One of the best manticores ever.
Oh yeah, that is a fabulous manticore. But then there's one, two, three, four other packs of minis involved. Some painted, some not, and that's going out to our a lucky winner that's randomly selected from one of our patrons or from anyone who has submitted the contest form. So you definitely want to get in on that if any of getting a chance on these minis is so desired, and that's in addition to all of the other great stuff that we have on Patreon. All of the 5th edition content, the access to the special Discord, all of that fun stuff.
When do you make the final run to get the submission forms, if there are any, at the PO box?
So I will probably be there, Saturday, and if I don't get out there Saturday, I will do a final call on Monday.
So if you're gonna mail in an entry, you're running out of time.
Indeed.
Tick tock, tick tock.
Thank you for calling it out. We do try to share the wealth and give out cool stuff that we think our fans will enjoy.
And that's all WizKids, right?
All of that stuff in that box is WizKids, but there is a dice rolling cup from our lovely friends over at ERD.
Yeah, Easy Roller Dice, and also it a lot. This stuff is often donated to us or given to us, to either be used as giveaways or we get it and we're like, hey, we want to give it to you guys. So no, we are not going out and spending a bunch of money every month, but it's
there
cool
have
stuff.
been times that we have actually gone and done that stuff, but yes, a lot of the stuff is sent to us for review or for giveaways, and we have got a great relationship with a lot of awesome companies that are out there, and we do try to make sure that the giveaway shelf stays flush with things so that we can send it your way.
Sometimes too much. Ted's like, look, the shelf cannot take any more of this, man.
Well, I mean, that's why it ebbs and flows. So we always say that we're going to give away a minimum of $50 every month worth of stuff. So if it gets too light, then the pile slims down of what we're actually going to send out. But when it's flush like it is now, stacks of books that are in there and growing, we blow it up a little bit and say,
Yeah.
we're going to give away more.
And it's fun. It's fun to give away stuff. I love giving away stuff. Sometimes Ted's got to hold me back. He's like, Dave, you're going crazy.
I just, and not that we have a problem with it.
Yeah.
I'm the one that has to, box it up and ship it out and see oh my God, I'm spending how much to ship it to where?
Yeah, Ted is more practical is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm
not. But, it is, it is, as, Delicath says, we like to give back to the community. We like to share. And we think you guys are awesome too. So why not?
It's fun, and
so we have got, the campaign finale for Those Bastards tomorrow. Friday night is going to be session 10 of the Chaos Crew, our continuing monthly game that I run with some awesome players. That is now sponsored by Easy Roller Dice, just previously mentioned. They're awesome people, and they're going to be continuing that story. We got 3 more sessions with them before we move on to a whole new story and see where season 5 goes.
So will season 5 be the same characters, or are you guys starting a new campaign?
It will most likely be a new campaign, but we are going to discuss, basically have a session 0 with all 5 of them, as we are picking up a 5th player for that particular game now. So it's very exciting.
Nice. So this week, some of the guests we've got coming on. Tomorrow will be Ancient Lairs, and they've been a sponsor to the channel currently and in the past for different things. They make cool stuff more to add to your game. Before they did these like campaign medals that were really cool, and they were kind of based off the official content. And this time around, they're doing a website for basically building out your characters as pawns that you can print out or tokens. And I think it's like $80 and you can get a lifetime membership, and you can get up to like 3 years and it's pretty cheap. But I mean, I feel like that if you're going to play a lot of D&D for the rest of your life, $80 it seems pretty cheap as well for the lifetime membership. And it's pretty cool, but all the stuff that you can do with all the different combinations. I thought that was definitely fun. And who knows? They have a commercial version where, like, hey, if you wanted to, the character art that you kind of make, you can put in products. Who knows? Maybe we'll see more of that in the future as well. It's a pretty cool concept, and I like it. And I think their timing is good too, with everyone, with a lot of people using VTTs. But even after life goes back to normal, it's still useful. Not everyone uses minis for everything, and it's definitely a more cost effective as well as storage. Like sometimes it's not even a money issue. Sometimes some people are just like, I just don't have the capacity to have tons of minis.
There are also things like if you're going to do con games and that kind of stuff, like as a DM, you could come with, pre-generated characters, pre-generated paper minis that you come to the table, and when everyone goes away, go ahead, keep your mini, keep your character sheet. And it's a like a little, token giveaway that is cool. And for you as a GM, it was just paper, but to them, it's a memory.
Yeah, absolutely. Get it laminated or something. Why not? Or have them import into your VTTs. Also, Jordan from Forgotten Realms Explained is going to be on the channel later in the week. I'm excited. Awesome. Excited for that. He was supposed to be at Nerdarchy Con, but Apocalypse. But so that's really cool. I haven't really gotten to talk to Jordan and since I played with him in Court of Worms, which just feels like forever ago now.
Well, it was even more forever ago when I played Cypher with him.
Yeah,
with Saber Dice, way back when.
And that was definitely a blast. It was great to have him as a player in one of my games. Like his character's whole stick was like he was on his way to a birthday party that he never got to because he got whisked away,
That's awesome.
which was kind of funny. Yeah. Well, so with that, I mean, it's that time, but we'll be back tomorrow for the finale for Those Bastards, and then we're gonna take a break from that game or from Tuesday nights for 1 week, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna be playing a brand new game, which we haven't really come up with a name for yet. I should definitely probably do that to maybe announce tomorrow night.
I think the game name has been chosen in our own inner Discord.
Yeah.
It might steer people in the wrong direction as the type of game, but
Yeah.
it could definitely work.
But the game we're gonna be playing is like this mashup of concepts. It's like post-apocalyptic, but that's not really the game we're playing. It's gonna be a little more science fantasy, and it's kind of like an homage to Thundar the Barbarian and the old Flash Gordon, cartoon and movie. So there might be a little bit of over the top cheesiness.
And big shocker, it's not D&D.
What? You don't tell them that, Ted. No one's going to show up.
Oh, they're gonna come and they're gonna have a great time and they're gonna learn a new system.
Yeah. So with that, until next time, stay
Stay
nerdy.
nerdy.